Well, last time my guests joined me was when E.G. was releasing her first novel, and now she's got a second novel, a follow-up, and her mom, Jennifer, getting into the game as well. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And joining me in studio is authors E.G. Keith and Jennifer J. Keith. Thanks for taking time with us this morning. Congratulations. You both are releasing separate books. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I guess let's start with E.G. You've been around the world with your novel Havoc. For people who didn't hear that interview a couple of months ago when you released this first book, what's it about and how far have you gone around the world with it? Good morning.
So Havoc is about 5 magical teenagers who go on a quest to save their prince with a 10-day deadline. I went all across the world, so to Europe and Italy and France, all in there, and books were carried by my mom to Australia, and so they were there. Don't know if they still are because we left them there for free. And then all around the United States, too, more eastern, though, so Massachusetts and New York and Pennsylvania and all of that.
So now you've got the sequel to Havoc, and the title is Serenity.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Serenity is the sequel to Havoc about the same teenagers who now have an even more deadly quest with a more terrifying opponent.
So I don't want you to give away too much. Of course, we want people to get out there and pick up the book, Serenity, but obviously you have to brush up on the first novel that came out from E.G., and that is Havoc. E.G., remind people, how old are you?
I just turned 12 this past year in June.
What are your peers doing? What are they writing novels?
They're playing basketball. I can't do that, so...
So, again, 2 novels by a 12-year-old, which is pretty remarkable. Glad they're able to join us. Jennifer, you are the mother of a young author. What's that like? And how have you fostered a 12-year-old to be able to write 2 novels?
Well, her father is an amazing writer as well, and I've been an English teacher for 20 years. So when she started writing chapters, I just thought, I want more. I want the second chapter. She would give me 40 or 50 first chapters, and I just said, keep going. I want more. And I've had talented writers before in 20 years of high school teaching, but really I thought, ooh, there's something here. So I really wanted, because I'm biased, I like her. So I wanted to have other people verify that. And they did. And they said she's quite talented. And so let's keep going. So she worked with John Jameson, a local author himself, and really fostered her and trying to make sure that she could get the right, but really she loves grammar. She loves the Oxford comma. She loves all of that stuff. It's ingrained in her. And she just really just kept writing. I was really proud of her. And then when she finished October of 21, she just called me. I was on a work trip, and she just called and she said, I did it. I wrote the end. And it was 300 and some pages. And then the sequel is 400 pages, and she wrote that in 4.5 months. She was on fire. So I think the characters have kind of let her be a little bit. So she's kind of taken a break, and just getting them both to publication has been a neat journey for sure.
Life lessons all around, no question. And Jennifer, you've got a new book out. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But E.G., talk about the inspiration here. What made you want to write a novel, a fantasy novel at that?
Well, there's a lot of people who say write what you want to read, and I've always wanted to be a writer. I've been writing since I was 7 years old, and I discovered what Google Docs was, so that was like mind-blowing. And so,
which, by the way, I'm a writer in the news world. I fear Google. All right, Google's very scary, the technology they have, and how they record basically everything, but darn it, Google Docs is a godsend.
Good stuff.
It's a so yeah, but you're using Google Docs, you're learning to write, and you're just putting it out there. Does it just flow? Does it just come out? How does it go about with the process?
If I plan things, it doesn't really work. If I plan, I feel like I'm restricted to what I've planned, so I don't plan anything, which kind of makes me regret that whenever I get to editing and I have to cut out all the parts that are
Sure,
useless. And so, but it works really well, obviously. And
Well, you've gotten 2 novels out of it in the span of a couple of years here.
yeah,
That's
so
pretty incredible.
I don't plan, but it turns out to work anyway.
Jennifer, let's talk about your book. While your daughter has taken the path of writing fiction, you're taking a different approach with the book that you are putting out.
Yeah, so Fixing the Funny Bone is it's part memoir, and so it's got a lot of stories in it. But as a high school teacher, I've always just used my stories to kind of be lessons, life lessons, or connect with material I was teaching. And I kind of connected with the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor, and I'm now their president, and really studied humor. It's been something I've always drawn on as my superpower and how to survive and cope and those kinds of things. And I thought maybe my stories would be something that could help others other than just the teenagers I had in class.
Well, give us an example of that. The obviously when you pick up a nonfiction, sometimes it's self-help, sometimes it's how-tos. So talk a bit about some of the examples that you have in Fixing the Funny Bone.
Sure. So I was actually living in New York City during 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And was planning on being there that morning. And
At the World Trade Center?
correct.
Oh, my gosh.
I was working on being a photographer, and I thought, I'll go to the World Trade Center that morning and take pictures of the Empire State Building. I was building my photography portfolio. And so I was planning on being there that morning, and I got on the subway to get into the city and didn't have my camera. And thought, well, how can I do? I was so angry, went back into the house to get it, and, the world changed. So it was kind of one of those things where I lived in a state of mourning for a really long time. And I was a nanny in New York City at that time. I didn't have my family around me. My sister had passed in a car accident a couple of months before, and it was definitely a really dark space. And I thought, how do I work through this? And so part of it was just what I talk about in the book, which is the grit method. You have to grieve. Whatever the loss is, and in my case sometimes it was death of a person, but even the things that like losing a job or changing jobs or having friends move across the country or
Sure.
divorce or all of those things that we don't necessarily have a funeral for. We need to start grieving those and being okay with grieving that, and then going through the process of, is there something funny that happened around that time? Those things, those traumatic things may never be funny, and that's okay, but is there something around it that can kind of bring some light and some joy? So, for example, when my husband proposed, he went down on one knee, and it was a beautiful moment, and he split his pants. And so him.
No!
I know.
Is that in the book?
It is.
Oh, Brian.
It is.
Oh, no.
So, but we have laughed for 19 years, probably me more than him, but it was that, okay,
By the way, I can't wait to see Ryan
I
again.
know.
Because I see him at the State House.
It's in the book, and it's in my TED Talk. So poor guy. But he has lived this story for 19 years, and he did give me permission to use it. He promises he's not going to sue me. But yes, and so it was that, okay, we're going to be okay because there's funny parts, and even though I wanted the soap opera or the romantic comedy moment, this was even better because it was real life, and it's just, there's something funny in it. So.
Yeah, and again, the book, Fixing the Funny Bone, both your book and E.G., your book, are out now.
Yes.
Where can people get them?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Our websites.
Yeah, website.
So fixingthefunnybone.com and egkeith.com. 2 websites where you can get more details about the books. Of course, Fixing the Funny Bone is a kind of self-help book of sorts, nonfiction, while EG is writing fantasy novels, 2 out right now, and 12 years old, which is just remarkable. Lastly here, the process. E.g., we heard a little bit about your process. Do you guys write together, or is it you kind of go your own ways and compile stuff that way?
Maybe someday, but definitely right now, we do not see eye to eye on our genre or our style
Or the Oxford comma.
Or the Oxford comma. But I can see someday.
E.g., do you do 2 spaces after each sentence?
No.
No.
Okay, well, that's good.
There's a combination then.
All right. Well, both of you, incredible stuff, and so cool to hear the stories here, and the remarkable work. A 12-year-old putting out 2 novels. Her mom now putting out their own book, and you can find more details at fixingthefunnybone.com and egkeith.com. Jennifer, EG, thank you both for taking time with us today.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Greg.
It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMA.